As nothing else has been released in the last couple of weeks, I will once again be doing another build guide. I actually do want to make more of these, generally speaking, and kind of ramp them up. They just take more of my brain power than I currently have, which is a problem. Today we're going to be doing a heavily Grim Hollow inspired build based on the Monster Hunter, and we'll be multi-classing later on as well. The core concept from this class is because I like the idea of adding lots of modifiers to things. It's fun. So I'm going to be combining the Expert Strike that Monster Hunters get at level 5, which lets them add their intelligence to their attacks, and the Composite Longbow, which lets you add both your strength and dex modifiers as well. This is going to be a very glass cannon build. Do not expect to be surviving basically anything if you get hit, but hopefully you won't get hit. So let's jump into things, shall we? Let's go over stats first. We are going to kick things off obviously with point by here. Ignore the fact that the ability score increases are not done here. They are done as part of our background. A third-party integration on D&D Beyond could be better, let's be honest. Nevertheless, we are going to take a 14 in strength, a 15 in dex, a 10 in con, because even though I can't justify having an 8 in con, 15 in intelligence, 8 in wisdom, and 8 in charisma. We're then going to add +2 to our dex and +1 to our intelligence, and that's that for the species. I've just gone for the Dampier. They get dex of 13 plus their dex modifier, so it makes us be slightly harder to hit if we don't get any armor. Other than that, they also have the Climber feat, which is fun because it means you can scurry away if something's coming close to you, and I do appreciate that as well. Background, I've gone for Beast Hunter. This gives us the Bloodhound feat, which lets us track things better, and a bunch of cool proficiencies. And then obviously as our class, we've got Monster Hunter. The specifics of the proficiencies are entirely up to you. Just pick whatever it is that you want. Obviously, taking ones that make sense for a general hunter is a good shout. And then for the Grim, I would recommend asking your DM what kind of monsters you can expect to fight, and maybe pick one of those. And it isn't metagaming if you're trying to make sure your character is viable, ultimately. The most important thing here, though, is obviously weapon mastery, and we are going to be taking the Composite Longbow, which is strong draw, and then it does not matter. Obviously, this build is based on this one specific weapon. It's not a magic weapon, it's just an abnormal weapon, and as long as you have a strength of 13 or higher, you can use this weapon, and you can add both your strength and your dex modifiers to damage. At level 1, because this weapon does a d8 of damage, this means that we get a +5 to hit, and we were doing 1d8 plus 5 damage, which is an average of 9.5 damage at level 1, which isn't bad at all. Again, maybe they don't want to give you this weapon straight away, but you can always take a standard longbow if you want from the options here, and then have the composite longbow later on, if that's how your DM wants to do things. I personally wouldn't mind giving a player this, but I like to use stronger monsters, as I've previously discussed, and my players being stronger means I can do that. For the first 5 levels, we are all in on Monster Hunter, so let's go to level 2, we get to fighting style. We will, of course, be choosing archery, because it gives us a +2 to our attack rolls, which means that we are now rolling with a +7 to hit, which is great. The damage does remain the same, though, or at least you'd think so. So we're still doing 1d8 plus 5, which is 9.5, as I said. However, we get studied response here, which lets us far more reliably use our reaction to opportunity attack a creature. And and this opportunity attack actually comes before the creature attacks, which means that there is a chance that you finish the creature off before it hits anyone. So this is a potentially huge deal, and what this effectively does is gives us kind of extra attack at level 2. So instead of doing 9.5 damage, this now goes up to 19 damage, which is not bad at all for a level 2 character. We are heading up to level 3. This is where you get your subclass. You can take any of these. The Occultist isn't a bad shout if you want to do magical stuff, and there is a ranged smite spell from the Valda's Spire of Secrets and the Gunslinger class, which you can use, and that actually adds damage as well, but that isn't every single turn, and I kind of want to make this as consistent and efficient as possible, so we're actually going to go for the Trapper Guild here. The Trappers can basically prepare traps as part of a long rest, and the one that we're here for mostly, the elemental ammunition, it doesn't state a number of uses that you get of this, so my assumption is that you just get a bunch of it. I'm treating this as once per turn. I think it might be intended to be once per long rest, but that feels a bit wonky to me personally. So yeah, the elemental ammunition discharges its energy if hits, but it doesn't state that you can only do this once per long rest. If you choose the elemental ammunition, I am choosing to take that as being once per turn, basically, because you have to use a bonus action to imbue it. I personally think that's a little open to interpretation, but obviously you're welcome to disagree with me. If you do disagree with me, then actually your best shout for the more consistent damage here is to go for the Occultist at level 4 rather than taking the Sharpshooter feat. you will want to take the Gun Mage feat from Valdust Spire of Secrets. I'll show that off when we get there as well and explain my thinking. But for now, my assumption here is that you can use your bonus action to imbue a piece of ammo at 2d6 extra damage. This bumps our damage up by 7 points, which means we're up to 26 damage at level 3, which is not bad. You also get other gadgets, but I'm not particularly interested in those for the purpose of this video. Level 4 is where we get our ASI. Now, we want one that boosts our dex, because that's an important thing to do. If you decide to go for the Occultist route instead of the Trapper route, then you want to take the Gun Mage Adept feat here. This gives you a cantrip, which is fine. The most important thing it gives you here is the Ballistic Smite. It does give you other stuff too, which is great, but this is the one that we want, and this allows you to expend a spell slot as you hit, once again as a bonus action, for 2d6 extra damage. This goes up as you gain new spell slots, but obviously as a third caster that doesn't go up very quickly. But again, this has a very similar effect to the Trapper guild, which is why I don't think it's the end of the world to let the Trapper use it every turn. Anyway, if you're not doing that, then the feat that we want is, of course, Sharpshooter. Sharpshooter bumps our dex, which is important because that bumps us up to 18 dex, so we get a little bit more damage. It also means that we can ignore 1/2 and 3/4 cover with our attacks. Being within 5 feet of an enemy doesn't impose disadvantage on your attacks, and you don't get disadvantage at long range. The composite longbow has a short range of 200 and a long range of 600. This effectively allows you to stay up to 600 feet away from everything you're fighting and attack. The only thing that is worth noting is your studied response has to be within 60 feet of you. So while we do get that, the main reason we want this is just because it boosts up there. The main reason we want this is because it buffs our dex. It means we can ignore cover, and we can attack at long range or short range as needed, which is really important. With that in mind, and with our dex having gone up a point, we now have a +8 to hit instead of a +7, and we're adding +6 to our attacks instead of +5, which means that we've gone up another 2 points of damage to 28. Which is not bad for level 4. We will now be taking our final level in Monster Hunter. This gives us another weapon mastery. It simply doesn't matter. We're not interested in anything other than this. Most importantly, it gives us Expert Strike. This lets us add our intelligence modifier to our attacks. So while we're not getting extra attack at this level, don't worry, we'll get there. It does mean the modifier we're adding now is another +3. So we're actually getting extra 6 damage per turn now with our attack and opportunity attacks. We're up to 34 damage. Again, this is assuming a standard non-magical weapon, which is not bad at all. Right, this is what I like to call the Colby special, which is that I was thinking about multiclassing, and the correct choice when multiclassing is, of course, fighter, at least if you're going for a martial class. So, as a level 1 fighter, we actually want to take one of the Grim Hollow fighting style feats here, which is the Opportunist. This allows you, when you make an attack as part of your reaction, to add a +2 bonus to both attack rolls and damage rolls, which means that we're bumping up our damage by 2 overall. This means that we've gone up to 36, which is pretty good, but it also means that that opportunity attack that we're making, the studied response one, is more likely to hit as well. That now has a +10 to hit, which is really quite solid. We also get Second Wind, which is always good, and we get another bunch of weapon masteries, and again, I cannot stress enough, I'm simply not interested in these for this particular build. But hey, let us continue on the path of the fighter, shall we? Level 2 we get Action Surge, and unsurprisingly that's a fairly big jump to our damage, at least for the first round. Right, the maths goes off a little here. The long and short is that between attack and the Action Surge attack, we're doing 20.5 and then 13.5 damage, and then with the opportunity attack, we're doing 15.5 damage. So our total damage at this point is 49.5. So that's nearly 50 damage. It's effectively 50 damage. The reason it's 0.5 is because when you average out any dice roll with an even number of sides, it will always be 0.5 because 0 is not a number you can roll on them most of the time. Level 3, we are getting our subclass. I wasn't sure which subclass to take here, but I do like to stick with things when we're doing thematic builds, and this kind of is. While you could definitely go for essentially any of them, and if you are going for the occultist route, then the Eldritch Knight might be a really good one here to keep to some of that third level caster stuff that we're doing. Otherwise, the Champion solid, the Battlemaster solid, honestly, they're all pretty good, but the one that we are going for here is the Living Crucible, which is basically Ghostfire Gaming's Witcher subclass. This lets you create compounds this lets you create compounds, and the specific one that we want here is Liquid Rage, which allows our attacks with weapons and unarmed strikes to deal 1d4 of extra damage for a minute. We can consume one of these as a bonus action. It's good stuff. You can also take Adrenal Injection for an extra bit of movement, and maybe Arcane Eye Oil or something to sense magical stuff. It really is up to you for the other two, but if you're going for damage, then you want the Liquid Rage. This, because this adds effectively 3d4, this adds 7.5 damage to our damage output over the course of the first turn at the very least, which means that we're going up to 57 damage on that first round. The rounds after that, you're losing 16 damage. You're still at 41 damage. Again, Action Surge is pretty strong, as it turns out. I don't think it's an issue to go down to 41 damage personally per turn as an average. Remember, there's a chance you crit as well. And certainly, if you didn't want to go for the Dampier build, you could go for an Elf, and you could always take Elven Accuracy as a feat and take the Champion build if you really want to go all in on crit fishing. It is a classic for a reason. Anyway, let's go up to level 4 in Fighter. Level 4 gives us yet another weapon mastery. We've mastered basically all the weapons at this point. We simply do not need any more of them. More importantly, it gives us our ASI. Because I'm going purely for the modifier, I am actually going for the ability score improvement, and we're going to max our dex here because that gets us up to 20 dex at level 9, which isn't terrible. This adds another 3 damage to our attacks basically over the course of the first round, which means we're up to 60 damage, which isn't bad. But of course, the real heavy hitter here is when we get to Fighter level 5, where we get Tactical Shift. That's it, that's what we're looking for. No, where we get extra attack, obviously. This adds 1 attack every single turn and 2 attacks on the first turn, assuming you're action surging on the first turn. This means that you are doing, stick with me, on your first attack, 1d8 plus 10 plus 2d6 plus 1d4 for 24 damage average. Extra attack, 1d8 plus 10 plus 1d4 for 17. And then the same again for the action surge attack and the action surge extra attack. And then for the studied response, your opportunity attack, you're doing that plus 2, so you're doing 19 damage on that attack. So that is 5 attacks pretty reliably on the first round, 3 attacks every round after that, which is still pretty good for level 10. Fighters get their third attack at level 11, as I'm sure many of you are aware, but you don't get to add all of these modifiers to it, which is the basis of the build. Anyway, the damage that you're putting out on that first round is 94, which is strong, and the damage outside of the action surge would be 60, which is still, again, quite strong. Because we are a fighter, we get to take another ASI or feat. Again, you can certainly make this more interesting. I am going to boost our intelligence because it's fun. You could definitely boost your strength here as well. It's kind of neither here nor there as to which one you go for. So just pick your preference, whatever fits your character better. Either way, this adds another 1 damage to each of our things, which means that we go up, because we're doing 5 attacks, to 99 on the first turn, which is pretty impressive. I need to close all these things. I don't need to see them all. We're then going up to level 7 in Fighter. We get another compound, and also we can take more of these things. It's worth noting that the amount you can safely consume of these is linked to your constitution with a minimum of 1. So we really are just taking the damage 1 here, and that's it, because that's all we can safely consume. I didn't say this was optimal for the Living Crucible. I said this was optimal for trying to do a lot of damage and a lot of dice and a lot of modifiers, because that's part of the fun for me. Yeah, unfortunately, this is the first level where our damage doesn't go up at all, which means we're still only doing 99 damage on that first turn, and we're doing 63 damage the turns thereafter. Which is still, again, I do think that's enough most of the time. And you're doing this potentially at range. You're losing some damage if you're at 600 feet range, but you're still a powerful attacker. But assuming you're in the mix, even if someone comes 5 feet up to you, you can still hit them without disadvantage, which is great. We are then going to level 8 in Fighter, which gives us another ASI. I'm gonna max our int here. We are now up to 20 intelligence, which means that we get another 5 damage boost. So we're up to 104 at this point, which is solid. Also level 13. Level 14 brings us Fighter level 9, which gives us the ability to replace our weapon properties, which is cool, and also gives us Indomitable, which is really useful. It's also another level where we don't get a power boost, and the same is true of level 15. When we go to level 10 in Fighter, we get another weapon mastery, and we can drink a second compound, assuming you've gotten an amulet of health or something from your DM for your dodgy constitution. Probably not. At level 11 with the Fighter, we get 2 extra attacks. This is level 16 overall, and those 2 extra attacks, when you include the fact that you're doing 1 on your normal action and 1 on your action surge, means that you are now doing 142 damage on that first turn. 142 damage is a lot, as it turns out. You're losing 57 of that damage, so you're doing, what is it, 85, I believe? 85 damage off the top of my head, without the action surge. But that's probably more than enough to put most creatures down. Level 12, we get another ASI, so we're going to take Strength. This is the final level that I'm doing for this build as well, because it means that we're up to level 17. This adds, because believe it or not, we're doing 7 attacks per round at this point, at least on the first round, and 4 attacks thereafter, it adds another 7 points to our damage. So we're doing 149 damage on that first turn, and then 60 less after that, which is 89 damage. Nice and easy to calculate, at least for once. I think this is a pretty impressive amount of damage throughout. We're doing what I wanted to do with the build, which is make the use of this cool weapon and the cool feature. So we're adding... Our modifier to each hit here is plus 13. Even if you roll abysmally, you're going to be doing somewhere in the region of 14 to 16 damage every single time you attack, as a bare minimum. This goes up with your opportunity attack and also on your first attack because of the fact that you've got elemental dice, but it's still a preposterous amount of damage as a baseline, as obviously the damage ceiling is even higher than that. You can certainly build this in a sturdier way if you wanted to lean more in the constitution and forsake some of the damage, and I'm sure that there are also plenty of other subclasses that you could go for, or even just stick with the monster hunter. The monster hunter does get extra attack at level 11 as well, so if we just stuck with it for another 6 levels we would have got that, but we got our extra attack 1 level earlier by switching to fighter, and we also got the bonuses of the liquid rage as well, which is an extra d4 on each attack. So all in all, this build is a big old brainy sniper. That's why I called it the studied sniper. It felt fitting to me. You're using your tactics and your intelligence to kind of focus in on a specific target and just obliterate them with arrows. There are obviously other boosts that you can get to this. If someone gives you a ring of spell storing and you can cast one of the damage boost spells on it, holy weapon or magic weapon or anything else, or if you actually get a magic weapon, then this damage goes up substantially faster, and that's just awesome, I think. So yeah, this is all... The build I did is almost entirely... I think it's all actually from the Grim Hollows player pack. I just really like it. But obviously if you do go for the occultist route, then you're going to be using some of the gunslinger stuff. You might even want to consider the gunslinger class as a potential option there, because the gunslinger class can do a lot as well. The gunslingers get another fighting style straight away, and they get advantage on initiative rolls as well, which is amazing, and they can also add various things to different weapons, and at level 2 they get to crit on level 19 or 20, which is exceptional. Level 3 obviously you get subclasses. So yeah, there's a bunch of ways that you could do this build. I really like the way that I did it. I like the fact that it's all kind of contained in that one player's guide, but I also like that you can mix and match third-party stuff on D&D Beyond, because that's a huge part of the fun, and it's the reason I end up getting it all, because it's entertaining. Anyway, I might build a gunslinger next. I want to kind of go back and revisit that class. I like that class a lot, and really figure out a fun concept for that and then build that out. So I might do that next as a build. Obviously, if anything comes out in the meantime, I will cover that, and I'll have an interview going up this week as well. So that is all for me for now. If you enjoyed this, like and subscribe. It means a huge amount. I am getting close to 1,000 subscribers, which is a big deal for YouTube, as it turns out. But with that out of the way, I will see you next time. Goodbye.